Welcome back to the Holistic Health Bites podcast. Today, I want to bring us back to the topic of stress. Specifically, we're going to discuss the 3 types of stress: emotional, physical, and chemical. Stress is a normal part of life, and it's not all bad. We're all going to experience it in one form or another, pretty much every day. However, not all stress is created equal, and as you start to understand the different types, you can manage it more effectively. So let's dive in with emotional stress. This is the type of stress. This type of stress is the one most of us are familiar with. It's the stress we feel when we're overwhelmed, anxious, upset, or worried about something. Emotional stress can be caused by anything from a difficult work situation to a relationship problem, financial worries, death or illness of a loved one, health scares of our own, and, anything we worry about. This type of stress can be hard to escape. Or eliminate because these are the things that happen in our lives. This type of stress can be hard to escape or eliminate because these are the things that happen in all of our lives pretty regularly. Emotional stress can have a significant impact on our mental and physical health over time if we don't build up a resiliency to it. Now, physical stress is the type of stress that results from physical exertion, injury, or physical trauma. This can include everything from rolling your ankle to getting in a car accident, which would also likely have emotional stress, and even just sitting in one position for too long. This can include over-exercising and under-exercising or being too sedentary. In small doses, physical stress, especially from exercise, can be a great thing. This is what makes our muscles and bones come back stronger. But in large doses, or from less desired circumstances like accidents or injuries, physical stress can be harmful and detrimental to your overall wellness. Physical stress can show up as muscle tension, fatigue, swelling, redness, weakness, or even pain. And lastly, we have chemical stress. This type of stress is often overlooked or unknown, but it is just as important as the other two. Chemical stress is the type of stress that comes from toxins, pollutants, infections, illnesses, and any harmful substance. This includes the obvious things like cigarette smoke and air pollution, but it can also come from toxins in your water that you're exposed to when you drink it, cook with it, shower in it, and clean with it. But it can also come from personal and home care products like cosmetics, cleaning products, shampoo, conditioner, lotion, laundry detergent, dryer sheets, air fresheners, candles, cookware, food packaging, even some medications and supplement ingredients, artificial ingredients in your foods and drinks, and even lawn care products like pesticides. This category also includes underlying infections and illnesses, whether you know about them or not. If you have an opportunistic bacteria or yeast growing in your gut, or you have a latent infection from something like Epstein-Barr virus or Lyme disease, these can also be stressors. This can also include other illnesses like diabetes, cancer, autoimmune conditions, and hypertension. All of these cause changes to the chemical reactions in your body that can contribute to the symptoms that we see and feel. So why is it so important to understand the different types of stress? Because the different types of stress require different strategies to manage them. For emotional stress, for example, practices like meditation, breathing, yoga, or talking to a trusted friend or counselor can be helpful. For physical stress, taking breaks throughout the day, doing stretches or exercise that can help alleviate tension can help. For injuries, we know that rest ice, compression, and elevation can often help. If you're currently sedentary, start moving every day. If you're currently overtraining, slow it down and add some restorative practices in. When it comes to chemical stress, the best way is to avoid exposure to harmful substances. Focus on healing the gut so that you can reduce the likelihood of infections. Eat a quality diet. Swap out personal and home care products for less toxic versions. And take care of your overall environment. Stress is a normal part of life, but the benefits are limited to short-term stress only. When it becomes a persistent situation every day, it causes miscommunications between the brain and the body. So let's talk briefly about what the stress response is in the body. When stress is perceived, this sends a signal to the brain that the situation needs to be dealt with. Specifically, the hypothalamus portion of the brain receives this signal. The hypothalamus then signals the pituitary gland, also in the brain, to send a signal to the adrenal glands to prepare the body to deal with the stressor. The adrenal glands then push out cortisol, amongst other things. Now, you've likely heard of cortisol being our stress hormone and that it has an impact on belly fat. Cortisol actually has hundreds of roles throughout the body, having an impact on blood sugar, digestion, immune system, mood, thyroid function, inflammation, and so much more. In this stress state, cortisol and adrenaline are pumped out to either help us fight or flee from the stressor. This is the classic fight or flight scenario. Along with this response, your blood sugar is also elevated to give you energy to fight or flee. Your digestion is slowed because this is a non-essential activity when you're facing a life or death situation. Your heart rate and your blood pressure increase to help you have adequate circulation during the fight or flight. This all makes perfect sense from a survival standpoint. Once you've mitigated this proverbial tiger, all of these systems just return to normal. The problem comes in when this stress is chronic. It's ongoing. This cycle of increased cortisol, adrenaline, blood sugar, heart rate, blood pressure, and decreased digestion continually, perpetually, over and over and over. This cycle of increased cortisol, adrenaline, blood sugar, heart rate, blood pressure, and decreased digestion continue perpetually over and over again. But you aren't actually running from or fighting off an attacker in this case. You're sitting in worry, fear, doubt, illness, injury, or toxins. You're stewing in the stress. You don't really need a faster heart rate, more sugar in your blood, higher blood pressure, or any of these chemical reactions to deal with this situation. But your body doesn't know the difference between these types of stressors. Over time, this can lead to burnout. The brain stops listening to the body. The body stops listening to the brain. And this leads to a whole host of imbalances in the body, from increased body fat to depression, anxiety, hormone imbalances, insulin resistance, digestive problems, nutrient deficiencies, chronic pain, and so much more. When the body is out of rhythm, any system can go awry. So the first step in mitigating this is to investigate what your body is doing right now. Oftentimes, in the early stages of chronic stress, you'll see elevated levels of cortisol and dysregulation of other hormones and the immune system responses. But the longer the situation continues, you'll likely transition to low cortisol levels and either further. The longer the situation continues, you'll likely transition to low cortisol levels with even further hormone imbalances and a depleted immune system. The remedy for your situation needs to correlate with exactly what your body is doing. We would approach high levels very differently than we would approach low levels, or for someone who is swinging from high to low throughout the day. We need solid data to pair up with your symptoms to make proper personalized recommendations to diet, lifestyle, stress management, and any healing agents. To learn more about how this investigation might help your health challenge, schedule a free call with me and let's discuss the health challenge that you are dealing with. I'll leave a link in the show notes. Until the next, be well and vibrant. Thanks for being a faithful listener to the podcast. I'd love it if you left me a 5-star review on this podcast so that others can more easily find this valuable information. Did you know I also work one-on-one with clients? I approach solving health challenges like I approached solving crimes, by conducting a thorough investigation into your case. Whether you're looking to lose weight, boost your energy, fix your digestive system, or reduce inflammation, I can help. All you have to do to get started is book a free call. The link is in the show notes.